Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about something that a lot of people in their late 20s, 30s, and early 40s are quietly struggling with. Because here's a stat that stopped me cold when I read it. 56% of millennials describe themselves as financially insecure, not people who are unemployed or in poverty, people with careers, paychecks, and in many cases, six-figure salaries, financially insecure. And the reason that number is so high isn't because millennials are bad with money. It's because the financial advice most people grew up hearing was designed for a completely different economic reality. Student debt that's doubled since 2009. Housing costs eating up more than half of take-home pay in major cities. Wages that haven't kept pace with inflation. A job market that looks nothing like it did for previous generations. So today, I want to talk about the 7 money mistakes that are actually keeping millennials stuck. And more importantly, what to do differently in 2026. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1, optimizing for financial metrics instead of your actual life. This one is sneaky because it looks like good behavior on the surface. You're saving aggressively. You're hitting your numbers, you've got your spreadsheet dialed in, but you're miserable. A huge number of millennials have become obsessed with arbitrary financial targets, hitting a certain net worth, maxing out every account, saving 30 or 40% of income, without ever stopping to ask whether any of it is actually connected to what they want their life to look like. Social media makes this worse. Financial influencers promote extreme frugality without ever talking about the mental health cost of living that way for years on end. And the result is people saving a quarter of their income while skipping every vacation, stressing about every dinner out, and damaging their relationships over money anxiety. The fix is what's called values-based financial planning. Instead of chasing a number, you define what financial security actually means for your life. What do you actually care about? Travel, time with family, career flexibility, creative work. Build your financial strategy around those things. A simple framework that works: 50% of your take-home to needs, 30% to things you genuinely enjoy without guilt, and 20% to savings and debt. The goal isn't to sacrifice everything today for a future that never feels like enough. It's to build a financial life that's sustainable and actually worth living right now. Mistake number 2, treating homeownership like a financial emergency instead of a strategic decision. The pressure millennials feel around buying a home is intense. And a lot of people are making desperate, poorly timed decisions just to feel like they're getting into the market before it's too late. Here's the reality of 2026. The median age of a first-time home buyer has risen to 38 years old. The typical monthly payment on a new home purchase is at an all-time high. Nearly half of millennials simply cannot afford to buy right now in the market they live in. That is not a personal failure. That is a structural economic reality. Renting while building a larger down payment isn't losing. Keeping geographic flexibility while your career is accelerating isn't losing. Investing the difference between what rent costs and what full home ownership would cost isn't losing. It can actually outperform home equity in many markets. A useful rule of thumb: if your annual rent is less than 5% of what that home would cost to buy, renting often makes more financial sense. Run the math for your actual situation before making a decision based on fear or social pressure. Mistake number 3, analysis paralysis in investing. Millennials are the most financially connected generation in history. 84% have linked financial apps to their accounts, and that access to information is creating a serious problem. People spending months or even years researching the perfect investment strategy while missing real compound growth the entire time. Switching between platforms constantly, waiting for the perfect market entry point, going down rabbit holes on complex option strategies without fully understanding the risks. All of it adds up to the same result: not investing. Here's the truth. A simple 3-fund portfolio, 70% total US stock market, 20% international stocks, 10% bonds, beats the vast majority of complicated strategies over the long run. Set up automatic contributions on payday so the money moves before you can second guess it. Increase your contribution by 1% every time you get a raise, then leave it alone. If you genuinely don't want to think about it at all, a target date fund handles everything automatically. Done. The best investment strategy is the one you actually stick with, not the one that looks most impressive on paper. Mistake number 4, Lifestyle inflation without building income infrastructure first. As millennials hit their peak earning years and salaries go up, spending tends to go up at exactly the same rate. And suddenly you have a six-figure income and nothing to show for it at the end of the month. This creates what's called golden handcuffs. Your fixed expenses, rent, car payment, subscriptions, dining habits have climbed so high that you can't afford to take any career risks. You can't take a lower-paying job that would make you happier. You can't take time off between jobs. You're trapped by your own lifestyle. The move here is to build income infrastructure before you scale your lifestyle. That means a side consulting practice, digital products, dividend income, anything that creates a second stream of money coming in before your fixed costs go up. A practical rule for raises: when your income goes up, put 50% of the increase toward lifestyle, 30% toward savings and investments, and 20% toward experiences or one-time purchases. You still get to enjoy earning more. You just don't let it all evaporate into higher monthly bills. Mistake number 5, mishandling student debt. With average student loan balances around $33,000, this is a real and painful part of the millennial financial picture. But the mistake isn't having the debt, it's handling it in a way that doesn't account for the actual interest rate. A lot of people are aggressively paying down loans at 3 or 4% interest when that same money invested in a broad index fund would historically earn significantly more. Others are ignoring loans at 7% that are quietly compounding and growing. The framework is actually pretty simple. If your loan rate is under 4%, make minimum payments and invest the difference. High-yield savings accounts alone are currently paying more than that. If your rate is above 6%, pay it down aggressively. That's a guaranteed return equal to whatever interest rate you eliminate. And if you work in public service, government, nonprofit, qualifying education roles, make sure you understand public service loan forgiveness. If you're on the right repayment plan and submitting annual employment certification, you could be working towards significant loan forgiveness after 10 years of payments. A lot of people who qualify aren't taking advantage of it. Mistake number 6, cutting expenses while ignoring the income side of the equation. Here's something the budgeting world doesn't talk about enough. There is a floor to how much you can cut. There is no ceiling to how much you can earn. And yet, most personal finance advice focuses almost entirely on spending less rather than earning more. Professional certifications can increase your salary by 15 to 25%. The right skills, AI tools, data analysis, project management, are genuinely worth the investment right now across almost every industry. A course that costs $500 and gets you a $10,000 raise paid back 20 times over in the first year alone. A good target is to allocate 2 to 3% of your gross income to professional development every year. That's not an expense, and it's the highest return investment most people in their career years can make. Prioritize skills that are valuable across multiple employers, not just your current company. Use every employer tuition reimbursement benefit available to you and document what you're learning. LinkedIn posts, portfolio projects, case studies, so the market can see your growth. And mistake number 7, playing financial defense when you should also be playing offense. A lot of millennials are so focused on protection, big emergency funds, conservative investments, paying off every debt aggressively regardless of interest rate, that they never actually build the offensive strategies that accelerate real wealth. Defense matters. You need an emergency fund. You need insurance. You need a will. But if 100% of your financial energy is going toward protection, you're leaving serious wealth building on the table during the exact years when your time horizon is longest and your compounding potential is greatest. A simple reframe: put 70% of your financial energy into offensive strategies, negotiating your salary, building income streams. Keeping your stock allocation high because you have decades of runway, taking calculated career risks that could dramatically increase your earning power, and 30% on defense, a solid 3-month emergency fund, adequate insurance, basic estate planning. The goal isn't to be reckless. It's to stop being so focused on not losing that you forget to actually win. All right, so let's land this. Millennials are not bad with money. They are navigating genuinely harder economic conditions than any generation before them with less applicable advice than they deserve. Student debt, a housing market that makes ownership feel impossible, a job market that changes every few years, social media telling them they're failing if they're not millionaires by 35. The path forward isn't following a generic 10-step plan that assumes everyone starts from the same place. It's building a financial strategy that's honest about your actual situation, aligned with your actual values, and flexible enough to adapt as life changes. Start this week with one thing. Do a real financial audit. Your actual net worth, your actual spending, your actual interest rates. Just know where you actually stand. Everything else builds from there. If this video resonated with you, drop a like and subscribe. I put out videos on personal finance and building wealth every single week. And let me know in the comments, which of these 7 mistakes hit closest to home? I read every single comment. I'll see you in the next one.